Hello, everyone, and welcome to Down Bad, the self-help podcast where I, Jodi Johnson, talk about everything mental health related, from the challenges that we face to the celebrations that take place. On the show, I use my vulnerability in hopes that the more we as humans talk, share, and work together, the more we make mental health care accessible and acceptable for every single human being out there. This journey is yours and no one else's. Not your mom's, your dad's, your siblings, your significant others, your neighbors, no one's. It's yours every single step of the way. So thanks for being here and staying true to yourself, even in times of uncertainty and discomfort. New episodes release every Thursday. What's up, guys? Welcome back, or welcome. Hello, I'm Jodi, and I've been feeling down bad these last few months because I've lost a lot. And as a result, I've been mourning and grieving. So today I'm here to discuss how exercise can serve as a coping mechanism for grief. Exercise is personally my number one go-to antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication, because not only do we mourn the loss of loved ones, we also mourn outcomes, things that we lost or never even had the opportunity to get. So I couldn't think of a more perfect time to record this episode because this past weekend I finished my collegiate cross-country career, and it was a bittersweet experience for me because I had run track in high school, but I committed to play soccer in college. I chose soccer over running track and field, at least my freshman and sophomore year. I let go of my love for running, and then I finally returned to it in my junior year, and it's my go-to coping mechanism. I've utilized it a lot in these last 2 years. Since I lost my grandmother to cancer over the summer, it's especially been a tool that I utilize to cope with grief. And the presidential election just passed, and I'm assuming that many people are, happier than they've ever been before, and a lot of people are also mourning the outcome. So grief is a very important topic to me because I've always struggled with it. I have early memories and emotions tied to grief. Mourning not having my parents. At the end of third grade, one of my friends got hit by a car and he lost his life. His name was Carlos, and he was the brightest of us. And I'm not just talking about the classroom when I say that. He was the type of kid that dressed up and danced to Michael Jackson at our school craft fair, rather than selling a product, which is what the majority of students did, including myself. And when he died, it was like the last day of school. So we had all summer to just sit there and ruminate on how, he's not going to get a summer. He's not going to get a summer ever again. When he died, I needed help from a counselor to process, the thoughts that were going through my head. And there was pushback from the school because it was considered unusual for me to seek help for the death of someone that wasn't in my family. But it was because he left such a major impact on my life. He always made you feel seen. He made you feel like family. And I was a little kid that grew up with my Chilean mother's parents, and my mother was adopted. So I grew up with, two white people whom I love very much, but they were chosen family. They weren't family that I was, really like born into. So Carlos was the same to me. He felt like family. It felt like, someone that included me in their life was no longer here with us, and I didn't have much of that to begin with. 14 years later, I remember his smile, his warmth, his love. I remember him and all the other people, the friends, the loved ones that have been lost along the way when it's time to show up and be strong for myself. Because it's important to remember and understand that grief is complex. It isn't just one thing. It's multifaceted, like, the majority of things that I talk about on this podcast. It's our emotional response to loss as human beings. And this emotional response can impact our physical, spiritual, and our emotional well-being. Physically, it's going to impact us in ways like fatigue or sleep disruptions, appetite changes, headaches or body aches, a weakened immune system, chest pain or heart palpitations, stomach, digestive problems, lowered energy and motivation.
you might not even understand the physical things that are going on within you that are impacting you because of the grief that you're experiencing. Spiritually, it's going to affect you if you're a spiritual person in ways like questioning meaning and purpose on in this life and on this earth. Questions like, why me? Why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? What is the meaning of life and death? Is there a higher purpose? What was God's reason for taking this person out of my life? It's either going to leave you feeling spiritually connected or spiritually disconnected. And I can say for myself, after the loss of my grandmother, I felt more spiritually connected, which I think was good, because I've felt physical or spiritual disconnection before, and it doesn't feel good at all. That leads me into the next thing, is that there's a desire for comfort or reassurance. And I guess the connection that I felt gave me comfort and reassurance. There's transformation and growth involved with the spiritual impact. There's hope and healing. And then there's also, unexplained phenomena or experiences that alter your emotion and what you've experienced. There's emotional impacts. These are the things that we don't really want to sit in because they're uncomfortable. It's the sadness, the anger, the guilt. Sometimes there's even forgiveness, anxiety, fear, shock, disbelief, loneliness, depression, relief. And it's important to remember that grief comes in all shapes and sizes. There's losing a loved one. There's ending a relationship that you're in, losing your health, losing your job, or even a disappointing event. And it's estimated that 70% of people will experience a death of a loved one in their lifetime, but most of these people will follow a normal grieving process. And by normal, I mean that their grieving does not evolve further into a longer mental health disorder. And a meta-analysis from 2017 by Lundorf et al. Suggested that 15 to 30% of individuals who experienced the death of a loved one met the criteria for major depressive disorder. Another study from 2009 by Pridgerson et al. Suggested around 10 to 20% of people who lost a loved one met criteria for a prolonged grief disorder, which is a disorder that consists of persistent grief systems lasting longer than 12 months. Pridgerson et al. 2009 also suggests that 40 to 50% of these individuals experience heightened levels of anxiety and intrusive thoughts. And the last piece of data that I would like to give you guys is from a study in 2002, which, keep in mind, this is my birth year, do the math, by Bonanno et al. That suggests that around 75% of people experience grief also experienced a physical symptom related. And I'm sharing all of these stats not to bore you or make you click out of, Spotify or Apple or YouTube, wherever you're listening. I'm sharing it to emphasize that grief has effects on our overall health and well-being, and all of these effects are noticed by science. But the reason we're here today is to address how exercise can combat these effects. So, what role does exercise play in your journey to heal around grief and heal around that void that now is a part of your life? Well, the first thing is the release of neurotransmitters and hormones. You've probably heard of endorphins, which are our feel-good hormones. These chemicals are painkillers and mood enhancers. Our brain also releases other neurotransmitters and stress hormones that decrease our stress and anxiety. You've heard me talk before about cortisol and adrenaline, and that's okay. The short-term releases of these hormones and neurotransmitters are normal. It's the prolonged release of them that, lead to further effects on our mood and our anxiety and overall health. But the point that I'm trying to get here is that aerobic activity like running, swimming, biking, anything that you do cardiovascular wise is going to significantly increase the release of these endorphins, providing that runner's high that you get, that euphoria or that sense of well-being that you get from, a flow state of a good workout. The next is that it's going to improve brain function and neuroplasticity. Cardio increases blood flow to your brain. Like, do you know what that means? That means that you get more oxygen and nutrients that you need to support your brain function and to promote the formation of new brain cells. It encourages this thing called neuroplasticity, which is a way we adapt and form new neural roads or pathways that make our journeys much safer and healthier to navigate and manage. Physical activity is always going to be something that hopefully aids in your sleep, which is also something that helps your brain function more effectively. Exercise is also a positive distraction. Locking in keeps me from ruminating in negative emotions and negative behaviors, at least for however long my workout is. So if you're not getting physical rest, at least you can get some emotional or spiritual rest during a good workout. It's far healthier than substance abuse or avoidance, or even if you do use substances, exercising can keep you from drowning in them, or like I just said, you can at least get away from them for 30 minutes to however long you are working out. Exercise is also going to boost your self-esteem and your confidence. Even hitting your small goals can provide a positive feedback loop. It can allow you to see how strong you are, how capable you are, how dedicated you are, how resilient you are, and how fucking unbreakable you are. It will connect you with others, whether it's a team sport, a fitness class, a yoga class, a run club, a Pilates group, pickleball, anything that you can think of that connects you with others, that is getting you good exercise, is huge because social interaction is an important aspect of our well-being. It fosters connection and a sense of social support. I joined collegiate cross-country and track and field, of course, to push myself competitively again because it's in my nature, it's in my blood, but also for that sense of connection and belonging. I love my solitude, don't get me wrong, but isolation and loneliness is a much different story, and that is why it's a national epidemic. And then lastly, exercise regulates our autonomic nervous system, or ANS for short. And if you don't know what the ANS is, it's our involuntary bodily functions. And if you don't know what those are, here's three: your heart rate, respiratory rate, and digestion. Our ANS consists of our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight, which I talked about, I think, in 2 episodes ago, dedicated an entire episode to it, and our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our relax and recovery. Exercise works to balance the two of these things. Majority of the time, we need to improve our relaxation and our recovery. And that's why for the past few weeks, my motto that I've fallen in love with is rest builds resilience. Regulating our ANS helps our connection with our mind and our body. How can you practically use exercise to cope with your grief, you might ask? Well, the first tip that I'm going to give you, whether you are an athlete who's still competing competitively, a previous athlete who, wants to again compete competitively, or, just a complete beginner to something, a complete amateur, it doesn't matter where you're at this. Start small and set achievable goals for yourself. Even the small things feel overwhelming as fuck when you're grieving. The smallest of tasks might feel like the end of the world. Accomplishing, even that tiny goal can reduce the pressure that you feel. So even if it's a, 5-minute walk or a 10-minute daily stretch or 20 push-ups, whatever you got to do to just, get something done. Build gradually, and once you feel comfortable or strong, then you can increase your load. Focus on being consistent rather than your intensity. And if you're consistent, focus on your intensity. I posted something the other day on social media that many of you won't agree with, won't like, whatever, of me, smoking a cigarette, but then, proceeding to do my workout for the day. So many people were absolutely shocked that I am able to smoke cigarettes and still run. I mean, it's not something that I do every day, but one, I'm able to do it because I'm a degenerate, and two, I'm able to do it because I'm consistent. I run, 5 to 7 days a week, and I do get cognitive dissonance when I smoke because I know that smoking is not good for your health. It is the leading cause of preventable death in our country, but I do it anyway. Not all the time, but I do it anyway. And rather than feeling like shit about it, I decide to show up for myself in other ways. There's just some times where I am just sitting there thinking like, I really, really, really want a cigarette and I can't stop thinking about it for a while. So, sometimes I just give into it. But anyways, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. The next tip is that you need to find yourself a supportive community or even finding yourself a workout buddy. I ran by myself consistently for over a year before I joined cross country and track and field in my senior year. I took my junior year to, really explore myself. But there's a saying from an African proverb that goes, if you want to run fast, run alone. If you want to run far, run together. Well, I wanted to run far, so I joined a community of people that run far. I've been allowing myself, recently to hit up people and accept invitations to go work out or go on runs with others, something that I wasn't really used to doing. You're someone that could do the same, whether it's a friend or a loved one or, someone that you're close with. You could also join a group class. Trust me, they are not filled with judgment. Everyone is always too worried about themselves wherever you're at to worry about what others are doing. And if you go to a yoga class or something like that to judge others, then you have, one, way too much time on your hands, and two, way too much money on your hands, because that shit is expensive. When I go to hot yoga, I lock in because that shit is expensive. But anyways, not to ramble any further about things that are off topic. Besides the sense of connection, having people around you is also having accountability partners that check your progress and make sure that you show up for yourself, especially if you're communicating with them your goals and what you want to do. The next tip that I have is exploring exercise and actually finding what resonates most with you. Because grief is something that is very, very personal. Like I won't feel what you guys feel about the people that you've lost in your life, because it might not be the same as how I feel about people that I've lost in my life. Grief is very, very personal. Not one size fits all. It's not the solution that we're trying to get here when it comes to exercise. Not many people are going to want to run 20 miles with me tomorrow. So what resonates most with you? Walking, yoga, weightlifting, dancing, cycling, or swimming, ball sports? Like, what is it that resonates most with you? Because it is for enjoyment, not perfection. Looking at the last few things that I just said, like I enjoy many of those. I'm not just restricted to running, even though that I talk about it more than I probably talk about anything else. My warm-up for my 8-mile run today was 30 minutes of dancing. Not sorry about it. The whole purpose is that you move your body in a way that feels healing and nurturing. One of the most important things that you can also remember is to not forget to listen to your body. Grief can be so entirely draining. Some days you will be at your 100% of what you can do, and other days your 100% will be 20% of what you usually got. That's okay. Be flexible with yourself. You are a human being. The next tip is to integrate mindfulness into physical activity. Use exercise as a mindfulness practice. You guys know how much I love mindfulness. If you've listened to other episodes, I talk about it a lot. This is being present with your emotions, the physical sensations that are present that you're experiencing. Your breathing, your muscle tension, the sounds that surround you. Being present can calm your mind and reduce the racing or intrusive thoughts that accompany grief. In harder cardio exercises, it's hard to practice breathing techniques, but there is exercises that you can do which place emphasis on breathing, like yoga, tai chi, or even walking. So take deep, slow breaths. Like, you can't forget the ancient art of breathing. Focus on inhaling and exhaling. They have purposes. There is neuroscience to back it up if you don't agree. But inhaling and exhaling will ground you to the present moment. It's going to slow down your heart rate, help alleviate that stress and anxiety in the present moment. Practice scanning your body so that you can assess these sensations without judgment for the first time. And if you need resources or support, please don't quite check out of this episode yet, because if you feel like causing harm to yourself or others, I want you to know that your life matters and that I hope you feel seen, heard, and validated, because I know exactly what it's like to want to cause harm to yourself. And I've called the national hotline 4 times before, when I thought that absolutely nobody else would get it or care about what I was going through. But when it comes down to it, guys, if you could just make that decision to call 988, even if you think your mind is set, please just give them a call. It's worth it, and I promise that your life is worth it as well. There's also, thanks to COVID, telehealth services that you can use and utilize, like BetterHelp or Timely Care or Talkspace. Not sponsored by any of them, but they are resources that you can use. You can also look in your community to see if there is grief support groups that you can join, whether it's school or church or online. Honestly, anywhere that you feel safe or protected. And we live in a world of technology now where you can use apps and websites that, help your mental health. I utilize apps like Headspace to practice meditation, breathing, and mindfulness. And that's because I have a 6-month free trial with them for attending a conference and getting, the free 6 months for it. But then there's also Active Mind is a nonprofit that, I absolutely love, that focuses on mental health awareness for young adults. They have blog posts on there, resources and stuff that you could go check out. For exercise, I use a Garmin watch, so I track all of my workouts through the Garmin app and through Strava. But there are far more apps than what I just mentioned. I've used the Nike Run app before, the Under Armour Map My Run app. There's many things that you can use out there. But it's also important to remember to combine exercise with your other coping strategies. So don't forget about those other coping strategies that you rely on, like journaling, mindfulness, meditation, creative expression. You can always combine these things with exercise. Journaling is something that I've been utilizing for this journey of becoming a more competitive runner, because now I actually have goals that I want to hit for, certain races and stuff. So journaling allows me to, write down all those emotions and all the things that I'm proud of or want to work on so that I can build a better runner, So to summarize this episode, we basically discussed how exercise is a tool that we can use to cope with grief. We learned how to understand grief, its role in our mental health, tips on how to use it, as well as resources and support for grief. So if you have lost someone recently, or not even recently, ever, I am sorry for your loss, no matter what it is, who it is. But I do want to remind you, don't be afraid of change, because the future you is waiting. You're exactly where you need to be right now. And I hope that in this episode, I was able to provide you with some words of encouragement, hope, or empathy. And I encourage anyone who's listening still to share your experiences and tips with me on social media. And next week, I'll be diving into how loving yourself can transform others. So go ahead and leave me a 5-star review if you found this episode helpful or useful, and send it to someone that you think may benefit from it, because, a lot of us are experiencing feelings of grief. So you're truly never alone. Follow and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Stay up to date by following me on social platforms. My Instagram and YouTube are Jodi MF Johnson. The Instagram for the pod is Down Bad A Podcast. And if you can, donate to my fundraiser in my bio and in the show notes of the episode, because I'm running the Philadelphia Marathon in just 14 days with Team Active Minds to promote and spread awareness for mental health, especially for young adults. So always, thank you guys for being here, and see you next time.